Bend over. I'll make it quick, the lonely cowboy said to the single mom, his calloused hands gripping the broken fence post as sweat dripped from his hat brim onto the sun-baked earth of her struggling homestead. Jane Moonlight felt her breath catch at his words, and without thinking she reached up to slowly untie the ribbon at her throat, letting her collar fall open in the desert heat as their eyes met across the splintered wood. What neither of them knew was that the scar running across Caleb's weathered knuckles was the same mark her dying husband had whispered about in his final delirium. The hand of the one man who could either save her family from ruin or destroy everything she'd fought to protect in this godforsaken town where secrets buried in silver mines have a way of clawing back to the surface. Would the truth about Marcus Moonlight's death unite them against the forces closing in, or would it drive Jane to choose between love and survival? The dust cloud rose behind Caleb Cross as he rode Justice into Dusty Hollow. His saddlebag held everything he owned now: a wanted poster with his face, a few silver coins, the weight of a crime he never committed. Jane Moonlight cursed under her breath. The fence post snapped again. Tommy laughed from the porch, oblivious to their troubles. She needed this barrier fixed before the creditors came back, before they took everything. Caleb dismounted near her gate. The woman struggled with rotted wood in the merciless sun. "Need help with that?" Jane looked up. Sweat stained her dress. Her hair fell loose from its pins. "Bend over. I'll make it quick." Caleb gestured to the broken fence. Their hands brushed as she moved aside. Jane felt heat that had nothing to do with the weather. Without thinking, she reached up and untied the ribbon at her throat. Her collar fell open. The desert air touched her skin. Caleb's breath caught. He gripped the fence post harder. Hoofbeats thundered down the main street. Sheriff Coleman appeared, his eyes fixed on the stranger. He studied Caleb's face like a man comparing it to memory. "Afternoon, Jane. Who's your friend?" "Just passing through." Caleb kept his hat low. Jane noticed something then. A jagged scar ran across Caleb's knuckles. Her heart stopped. Marcus had described that exact mark in his dying words, the hand of the man who could clear his name. Coleman's fingers rested on his gun belt. "Mighty generous of you to help folks you don't know." Caleb's jaw tightened. Justice pawed the ground, sensing tension. Jane stared at the scar. Marcus had been so insistent about finding this man, about the truth he carried. She stepped closer to Caleb, her decision made before her mind caught up. Jane found the letter 3 days after Caleb fixed her fence. Marcus's cramped handwriting covered the yellowed paper. Her hands shook as she read the debt amount. $5,000, more money than she'd see in 10 lifetimes. The signature at the bottom made her stomach turn. Victor Kane. Tommy burst through the door with scraped knees and a gap-toothed grin. "Mama, I caught a lizard." Jane folded the letter quickly. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Go wash up for supper." She couldn't lose this house. Tommy had already lost his father. He wouldn't lose his home, too. Kane's carriage arrived at sunset. Black lacquer gleamed despite the dust. 2 men flanked the door as Kane stepped down. His suit cost more than most folks earned in a year. "Mrs. Moonlight," Kane tipped his hat, "I trust you received my correspondence." "I did. Your late husband was a gambling man. Cards, horses, mining speculation." Kane's smile never reached his eyes. Debts have a way of outliving the men who make them. Tommy peered through the window. Jane moved to block Kane's view of her son. "I don't have that kind of money. I'm aware." Kane gestured to the land around them. "Fortunately, I'm a reasonable man. My son Harold needs a wife. You need financial security, a mutually beneficial arrangement." Jane's throat constricted. "I'm not interested in remarrying." "Think carefully, Mrs. Moonlight. Winter's coming. Children need warm beds and full bellies." Kane climbed back into his carriage. "I'll return tomorrow for your answer." Caleb appeared after Kane left. He carried firewood and a string of fresh-caught fish. "Saw the fancy carriage. Trouble?" Jane studied his scarred hands. Marcus's dying words echoed in her memory. "Find the man with the lightning scar. He knows the truth. Victor Kane owns half this county. Wants the other half too. Caleb's expression darkened. Kane's bad news. Heard stories. What kind of stories? The kind that get men buried in unmarked graves. That night, Jane lay awake listening to Tommy's steady breathing. She thought about Caleb's gentle touch when he helped her with chores, the way he made Tommy laugh with silly faces, how safe she felt when he was near, but safety was an illusion. The wanted poster crinkled in her apron pocket. She'd found it in Caleb's saddlebag while looking for a rope. His face stared back from the paper. Wanted for murder. Reward, $500. Morning brought Harold Kane to her door. Soft where his father was hard, weak where Victor was strong. He fidgeted with his watch chain. "Miss Jane, I hope you'll consider Papa's proposal. I'd treat you real fine." Jane forced a smile. "I need more time." "Course you do. Papa says women get emotional about these things." Caleb emerged from the barn. Harold's face paled. "You're him, the one on the posters." Harold backed toward his horse. "Papa said you might turn up." Jane's heart hammered against her ribs. Caleb's hand moved toward his gun. "Tell your father I'm just passing through." Harold mounted quickly. "He knows about you and Mrs. Moonlight. Says it won't end well for nobody." After Harold left, Jane confronted Caleb with the poster. His shoulders sagged like a man accepting defeat. "I didn't kill anyone." "The law says different. The law's been bought. Same money that's trying to buy you." Jane wanted to believe him. Every instinct screamed that Caleb was good, honest. But Marcus had trusted the wrong people before. Look where that got him. "I can't have a wanted man around my son." Pain flashed across Caleb's face. "I understand." He packed his few belongings while Jane watched from the window. Her chest ached. Tommy asked why Mr. Caleb was leaving. She had no answer. That evening, Jane walked to town. The saloon buzzed with conversation. She caught fragments. Kane's men talking loud after too much whiskey. "Boss says the mine's producing double what we expected. Good thing we took care of that Moonlight fellow when we did." "Yeah, he was getting too close to the truth about them land grants." Jane pressed closer to the wall. Her breath came in short gasps. "Still can't believe we pinned it on that drifter. Cross never saw it coming. Kane's smart. Gets rid of a witness and a problem all at once." The pieces clicked into place. Marcus hadn't been killed by bandits. Kane murdered him, framed Caleb for it. Her husband died protecting something important, something Kane wanted buried. Jane stumbled home through the darkness. She burst into Marcus's old trunk, searching desperately. Behind the false bottom, her fingers found a leather pouch. Inside were documents, original land grants, survey reports, evidence of Kane's forgeries. Marcus died protecting the truth about dozens of families Kane had swindled, including hers. She thought about Caleb's gentle hands, the way he looked at her like she was precious, worth protecting. He was innocent, a good man caught in Kane's web of lies. Dawn painted the sky pink when she saddled her horse. She had to find Caleb before Kane's men did, before the truth died with them both. The wanted poster crumpled in her fist. Justice or revenge, love or survival. Some choices changed everything. Jane rode hard toward the canyon where Caleb had made camp. Dust clouds on the horizon told her she wasn't the only one searching. Kane's men moved like wolves closing in on wounded prey. She found Caleb watering Justice by the creek. His face lit up when he saw her, then darkened at her expression. "You need to run. Now." "Jane." "What's wrong?" "I heard Kane's men at the saloon. They killed Marcus. Framed you for it." Caleb's jaw clenched. "I figured as much. There's more." Jane pulled out the land documents. Marcus hid these before he died. Proof that Kane forged dozens of property deeds. He's been stealing land for years. Thunder rumbled from the canyon mouth. Not a storm. Horses. Too many horses. "They're coming." Caleb grabbed his rifle. "Take Justice and ride south. Don't stop until you reach Santa Fe. I'm not leaving you. Jane, please, Kane's voice echoed off the canyon walls. "Cross, I know you're in there. Come out peaceful and we'll make it quick." Jane's horse pranced nervously. Her hands shook on the reins. "I have your boy with me," Kane called. "Tommy's real eager to see his mama." Jane's world tilted. Her son's frightened voice carried on the wind. "Mama! Help me!" "You monster!" Jane started toward the canyon entrance. Caleb grabbed her bridle. "It's a trap. That's my son. And Kane will kill him the moment you show yourself, along with both of us." Jane's vision blurred with rage and terror. Everything she'd fought to protect was slipping away. Her home, her child, her future. Kane emerged from behind a boulder. Harold held Tommy's arms while two gunmen flanked them. Her boy looked so small, so scared. "Mrs. Moonlight, how nice of you to join us." Kane's smile was cold as winter. "I believe you have something that belongs to me. Let Tommy go. After we conduct our business. You see, your husband was quite the troublemaker, always asking questions. Poking around where he didn't belong. You murdered him. I protected my investments. Marcus threatened to expose certain irregularities in my land acquisitions. I couldn't allow that." Tommy struggled against Harold's grip. "Mama, I'm scared." Jane's heart shattered. She'd failed him, failed Marcus, failed everyone who counted on her. "The documents, Mrs. Moonlight. Hand them over." Jane looked at the papers in her hands. Proof of Kane's crimes. Justice for Marcus and dozens of other families. She looked at Tommy's tear-streaked face. "If I give you these, you'll let him go?" "You have my word." Caleb stepped closer to her. "Don't trust him, Jane. I don't have a choice." "There's always a choice." Kane's patience wore thin. "Enough discussion. Harold, bring the boy closer." Harold dragged Tommy forward. Kane drew his pistol and pressed it to her son's temple. "The documents. Now." Jane's resolve crumbled. She started to hand over the papers. "Wait." Tommy's voice was small but clear. "Mama, remember what Papa used to say?" Jane's breath caught. Marcus's words echoed in her memory. "Sometimes the right thing ain't the easy thing, but it's always worth fighting for." "I remember, sweetheart. He said brave people protect others, even when they're scared." Tears streamed down Jane's face. Her 8-year-old son was braver than she was, truer than she'd been. "You're right, baby. Papa would want us to be brave." Kane's expression shifted. How touching. "Harold, if she doesn't hand over those papers in 10 seconds, shoot the boy." "Pa, I don't think I can." "Do it, or I'll shoot him myself." Harold's hands trembled. The gun wavered in his grip. Jane made her choice. She stuffed the documents back into her coat. "No." "What did you say?" "I said no. These papers prove you're a thief and a murderer. I won't help you destroy more families." Kane's face contorted with rage. "Then your son dies." "Harold won't shoot him. Look at his face. He's not a killer like you." Harold's resolve cracked. "Pa, maybe we should just take the papers and go." "You're weak, just like your mother." Kane struck Harold across the face with his gun barrel. Harold stumbled backward, releasing Tommy. "Run, Tommy! Run to Mama!" Tommy bolted toward Jane. Kane swung his pistol toward the running boy. Caleb moved faster than thought. He tackled Jane, shielding her with his body as Kane's shot echoed through the canyon. Tommy dove behind a fallen log. "Everyone alive?" Caleb called. "We're okay," Jane gasped. Kane raged at his remaining men. "Kill them all! Burn everything!" The gunmen raised their weapons. Jane clutched the documents to her chest. These papers were worth dying for, worth Tommy growing up knowing his parents fought for what was right. But as bullets began to fly, one terrible question remained. Would doing the right thing cost her everything she loved, or would justice finally find a way to triumph in this God-forsaken place? Caleb's mind raced as bullets ricocheted off the canyon walls. 4 gunmen, high ground, Tommy trapped behind the log, Jane clutching those papers like they were made of gold. Maybe they were. "Stay down," he whispered to Jane. "I'm going to even the odds." How? Caleb reached into his saddlebag. Salt, sulfur from the general store, charcoal from last night's fire. His fingers worked automatically, muscle memory from a war he'd tried to forget. What are you doing? Something I swore I'd never do again. The measurements had to be perfect. Too little, and nothing would happen. Too much, and they'd all die in the explosion. Caleb's hands stayed steady despite the gunfire. Kane's voice boomed across the canyon. You're trapped, Cross. Surrender now, and I'll make it quick. Like you made it quick for Marcus? Your friend was stubborn, kept talking about justice and truth, made him dig his own grave before Harold here put a bullet in his back. Jane's sharp intake of breath cut through the air. Harold looked sick. That's not how it happened, Pa. Shut up, boy. Caleb finished packing the makeshift charges into 3 small cloth bags. Fuses made from strips of Jane's petticoat. He'd learned this technique during the siege of Petersburg. Watched too many good men die because someone had to blow up Confederate supply lines. The memory flooded back. 19 years old, scared senseless, his commanding officer bleeding out in the mud. Cross, you're the only one small enough to crawl through that drainage tunnel, plant the charges, and get out. Sir, I don't know if I can do this. Son, sometimes a man's got to blow things up to save lives. Just make sure you're not standing too close when they go off. Caleb had saved his entire regiment that day, lost his hearing in his left ear for 6 months, never touched explosives again until now. Jane watched him work. Where did you learn this? War teaches a man ugly skills. Swore I'd never use them again. What changed your mind? Caleb looked at Tommy's frightened face. The boy reminded him of his younger brother, dead at Antietam, buried in an unmarked grave because there wasn't time for proper funerals. Some things are worth fighting for. Kane's men advanced down the canyon walls, 2 coming from the left, 2 from the right, classic pincer movement. They'd be in rifle range in minutes. Caleb judged the distances, the rock formations, wind direction. He had one chance to get this right. Jane, when I light these fuses, count to 30, then run straight for that gap in the rocks. Take Tommy and don't look back. What about you? I'll be right behind you. It was a lie. Someone had to stay to make sure the charges went off at the right moment. Too early and Kane's men would scramble clear. Too late and Jane wouldn't have time to escape. Caleb struck the match. The first fuse caught fire. Now would be a good time for you to show me what makes you special, he said to Jane. Jane's eyes blazed with sudden understanding. She stood up, exposing herself to gunfire. People of Dusty Hollow. Her voice carried across the canyon like a bell. Victor Kane killed my husband. He's been stealing your land with forged documents. Get down, Kane snarled. But Jane kept shouting. He murdered Marcus Moonlight and framed an innocent man. The proof is right here. Something miraculous happened. Other voices answered from the canyon rim. The townspeople had followed the sound of gunshots. Shopkeepers, farmers, women with their children, all the families Kane had been systematically robbing. We heard you. Jane, called out Ben Crawford, the blacksmith. Show us the proof, shouted Mary Patterson from the mercantile. More people appeared on the rocks above. Kane's men found themselves surrounded by angry citizens. The tables had turned. Jane had done something Caleb never could. United the community against their oppressor. Given them hope when they had none. You always could bring people together, Caleb murmured, remembering how she'd organized the church socials, the way neighbors helped each other when Jane asked. The second fuse sparked to life. Kane realized his tactical advantage was dissolving. Kill them all! No witnesses! His gunmen hesitated. Shooting at 2 people in a canyon was one thing. Massacring half the town was another. I said, shoot! We didn't sign up for this, Kane, one of them said. Murdering women and children ain't our way. Kane drew his own pistol. Then I'll do it myself. The third fuse ignited. Caleb grabbed Jane and Tommy. Run! Now! They sprinted toward the gap as the canyon erupted behind them. The first charge brought down a section of the north wall. The second collapsed Kane's escape route. The third sent a shower of rocks between the townspeople and Kane's position. When the dust settled, Kane and Harold were trapped in a circle of fallen boulders. His gunmen had thrown down their weapons. The townspeople climbed down to surround them. Sheriff Coleman appeared at the canyon entrance, badge glinting in the afternoon sun. He surveyed the scene with satisfaction. "Looks like justice finally caught up with you, Victor." Kane's empire crumbled in a single afternoon. But as Jane clutched the documents that would restore stolen land to its rightful owners, she realized the most explosive revelation was still coming. Sheriff Coleman's badge caught the setting sun as he approached Kane's trapped position. His weathered face showed no surprise at finding Victor Kane surrounded by angry townspeople and fallen rocks. "Quite a mess you've made here, Victor." Kane spat dust from his mouth. "Coleman, arrest that man. Cross is a wanted murderer." Funny thing about that wanted poster. Coleman pulled a folded paper from his vest. "Been carrying it around for months. Never could bring myself to act on it." Jane stepped forward, still clutching Marcus's documents. "Why not?" "Because I wrote it." The canyon fell silent except for the settling rocks. Caleb's hand moved toward his gun. "Easy there, son." "Let me explain." Coleman's voice carried the weight of years. "Been tracking Kane's operation for 2 years. Territorial governor suspected land fraud. Sent me to investigate. Harold Kane struggled to his feet, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. Pa, what's he talking about?" "Shut up, boy," Coleman continued. "Problem was, Kane had everyone bought off. Judges, land office clerks, even some federal marshals. Needed him to feel secure enough to expose his whole network." Jane's mind raced. "So you pretended to work for him?" "More than pretended. Had to let him think he owned me. Hardest thing I ever did was watching good people lose their homes while I gathered evidence." Ben Crawford climbed down from the canyon rim. "You let my family get cheated out of our farm." "I know, Ben. Killed me inside. But if I'd acted too soon, Kane would have destroyed the evidence and disappeared. Dozens more families would have suffered." Mary Patterson joined them, her face hard with anger. "My husband trusted you, Coleman. You watched Kane foreclose on our store. I've got documentation proving Kane forged your mortgage papers. You'll get everything back, Mary, with interest." Caleb lowered his gun but kept his eyes on Coleman. "What about Marcus Moonlight?" Pain flickered across Coleman's features. "That wasn't supposed to happen. Marcus found one of Kane's mining surveys, started asking questions. I tried to warn him off, but he wouldn't listen." "Because he was protecting his family," Jane said quietly. "Kane panicked, ordered Marcus killed before I could stop it. Then he needed a scapegoat." Coleman looked directly at Caleb. "You were in the wrong place at the wrong time. So you issued a warrant for an innocent man. I made sure that warrant never reached the right people, kept you running instead of getting you hanged. Figured it was better than letting you end up like Marcus." Tommy tugged on Jane's skirt. "Mama, I don't understand. Is Mr. Coleman good or bad?" Jane studied the sheriff's face. Lines of exhaustion, eyes that had seen too much. A man carrying the weight of impossible choices. "I think he's trying to be good, sweetheart. Sometimes that's complicated." Kane struggled against the ropes Ben Crawford had produced. "This is all very touching, but you have no proof. My lawyers will have me free by morning." Coleman smiled for the first time. "About those lawyers. Federal marshals arrested them 3 hours ago, along with your banker, your land office contact, and Judge Morrison. Impossible. Amazing what happens when you finally have enough evidence to move. 2 years of documentation, every forged deed, every bribed official, every family you destroyed." Jane unfolded Marcus's papers. "These documents prove Kane stole our land. Among others, your husband died protecting evidence that'll restore property to 43 families." The townspeople murmured as the implications sank in. Homes restored, businesses returned. Justice finally served. Harold Kane looked at his father with growing horror. "Pa, is this true? Did you really kill Mr. Moonlight?" "Everything I did was for our family, for our future." You built our future on murder and theft. Kane's face twisted with rage. You're weak, just like your mother. No vision. No backbone. Harold's voice broke. I helped you, Pa. I held that little boy while you threatened to shoot him. And you did it poorly. The words hit Harold like physical blows. Jane watched the young man crumble as he realized what he'd become. I'm sorry, Harold whispered to Tommy. I'm so sorry. Tommy looked up at his mother. Jane nodded permission. It's okay, Tommy said to Harold. Mama says people can change if they really want to. Coleman pulled out a set of handcuffs. Victor Kane, you're under arrest for murder, land fraud, bribery, and about 20 other charges. You'll never make them stick. Already have. Grand jury convened this morning. Your trial starts next month. As Coleman secured the handcuffs, Jane felt the weight of the past 2 years lifting from her shoulders. Marcus was vindicated. Tommy was safe. Their home was secure. But doubt crept in as she watched Coleman work. 2 years of deception. 2 years of watching innocent people suffer while he played a dangerous game. How do we know you're telling the truth now? She asked. How do we know this isn't just another layer of lies? Coleman met her gaze steadily. Fair question. Guess you'll have to decide for yourself whether justice delayed is the same as justice denied. The canyon fell silent as everyone waited for her answer. The woman who'd united them against Kane. The voice they'd learned to trust. Jane looked at Caleb, then at her son, then at the townspeople who'd risked everything to stand with her. The choice that would determine whether they could finally trust the law to protect them, or whether they'd forever doubt the price of the justice they'd won. Jane made her choice 3 days later. She rode to the territorial capital with Marcus's documents tucked safely in her saddlebag. Caleb wanted to come, but someone had to protect Dusty Hollow. Kane's remaining allies might try something desperate. The territorial governor, a stern man with kind eyes, listened to her story without interruption. When she finished, he spread Marcus's papers across his massive oak desk. Mrs. Moonlight, these documents will reshape land ownership across 3 counties. My husband died for them. He died for justice. That's rarely an easy death, but it's always an honorable one. While Jane traveled to the capital, Caleb organized the town's defenses. Kane's conviction wasn't guaranteed. His money still bought loyalty from dangerous men. Tommy helped by running messages between the houses. Mary Patterson turned her store into a supply depot. Ben Crawford forged weapons and repaired old rifles. Even Harold Kane, released on his own recognizance, pitched in by revealing his father's remaining hideouts. The attack came at dawn on the 4th day. 8 riders thundered down Main Street, guns blazing. They'd been paid to destroy evidence and scatter witnesses before the trial. Caleb's war experience served him well. He'd positioned defenders in windows and doorways, creating crossfire zones that turned the street into a killing ground. The battle lasted 30 minutes. When the smoke cleared, 3 attackers lay dead. The others fled toward Mexico. Dusty Hollow had protected itself. Jane returned that afternoon to find her town transformed. Confidence replaced fear in people's faces. They'd fought together, won together. Nothing would ever be the same. How did it go? Caleb asked. Federal marshals are on their way. Kane's trial will proceed as scheduled. And us? Jane touched the ring finger where Marcus's wedding band used to rest. She'd buried it with him after the trial. Some things belong to the past. That depends on whether you're planning to stick around. Caleb's smile lit up his whole face. I've got nowhere else to be. 6 months later, Jane stood in her garden watching Caleb repair the same fence where they'd met. The post was solid now, built to last. Bend over, I'll make it quick, he called out, hammering the final nail. Jane laughed, her hand resting on the gentle swell beneath her apron. Take your time, cowboy. We've got all day. Their wedding rings caught the afternoon sun. Simple gold bands bought with money from the silver mine that now belonged to the community cooperative. Every family in Dusty Hollow owned shares. Kane's stolen wealth had been returned to its rightful owners. Tommy raced around the corner of the house, chasing a butterfly. At 9 years old, he was taller and stronger. The fear had left his eyes. replaced by the confidence of a child who knew he was loved and protected. "Mama, Mrs. Patterson says the baby might come today." Jane touched her rounded belly. "Babies come when they're ready, sweetheart. Can't hurry them." "Like justice," Tommy said solemnly. Caleb dropped his hammer. "Where did you hear that?" "Sheriff Coleman told me yesterday. He said sometimes good things take time, but they're worth waiting for." Coleman had been vindicated by Kane's trial. The jury took less than an hour to find Kane guilty on all counts. Life in territorial prison. His empire dissolved, his stolen lands redistributed, his name a cautionary tale about the price of greed. Harold Kane had testified against his father. The judge showed mercy, sentencing him to community service instead of prison. Harold now taught school in Dusty Hollow, trying to atone for his past by shaping young minds toward better choices. Jane felt the baby kick, strong and insistent, like its father, or maybe stubborn and determined, like its mother. "What should we name the baby?" Tommy asked. "Marcus if it's a boy," Jane said quietly. "After your father." "And if it's a girl?" Jane looked at Caleb, then at the thriving town beyond their fence. Children played in streets that used to echo with fear. Families worked land that truly belonged to them. Justice had taken root in soil watered by sacrifice and tended by courage. "Hope," she said. "We'll name her Hope." The sun set over Dusty Hollow, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Jane leaned against her husband's strong shoulder, watching their son chase fireflies in the gathering dusk. Tomorrow would bring new challenges: babies to raise, a town to nurture, a future to build. But tonight, surrounded by love and protected by justice, Jane Moonlight Cross was exactly where she belonged. In a place where truth had triumphed over lies, where courage had conquered fear, where a lonely cowboy's offer to help fix a fence had grown into something beautiful and lasting. The fence stood straight and strong, built to weather whatever storms might come, just like the family it protected. And that is all to the story, for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. And if you enjoy our content, click this video on your screen. I promise you it's worth watching. See you tomorrow.